Hi, I'm Deidre, and this is Mikan. Miki-chan. He doesn't want to be held right now, but he is my 16-week-old kitten, and me and my husband, his dad, are getting ready to fly to Portland, Oregon. So it's going to be his first ever plane ride. He stayed at a few hotels already, so he's good with that. But I thought it'd be funny to do a video where I talk about perception versus reality, or maybe expectations versus reality. So I wanted to show you guys what I've prepared going into the trip, and then we'll talk about what I actually needed at the end, like when we're back home, and how much of it was nonsense. So the other thing that I realized when I was preparing for this trip was that since I was going to be taking him, he now counts as a carry-on, and me and my husband only fly carry-on. So that meant that I had to significantly think about what I was taking and how much space I was allowed for my stuff, because his stuff was going to take up a lot of space. So because we're newbies at this, I did want to follow the rules to the T. So we're flying Alaska up there and Southwest down, and they have the smallest cat carrier sizes ever. I mean, you literally can find like one option on Amazon, and this is it. And it's super tiny, and he's 4 pounds, and when I put him in here, he looks very cramped. So not a carrier we're going to want to use long term, but definitely something that we're going to do this trip at least, because we know that he's still tiny and small and he'll be able to fit in it. One of the things that I have done though is that I did use some of the space. So I took out the board that was in the back of here, and I put in my iPad into this little pouch where the board was before. I also put Mikan's paperwork, which both of the airlines, when I called to add him to the reservation, said that he didn't need to have paperwork, but I'm just bringing it just in case. And in this back pouch, I also put my Bose noise canceling headphones. So, you know, if he's crying too loud, or if children on the plane are crying too loud, I can drown it out. Just kidding, I would never do that. Just so that I can watch my videos on TV. So that's what we have. We are planning on putting in this side pouch his treats that he loves, which are just freeze-dried chicken treats that he goes crazy for. So we want to have the ability to give him little things and tell him good boy as we're going throughout the trip. On this side, it is just my stuff that I need in flight on a flight. It's about a 2.5-hour flight, so we want to make sure that we have plenty of stuff. So that's what this carry-on bag looks like. Now my roller carry-on bag is actually international size, so that's not you know, the US domestic sizing. It's a more condensed bag, and it's also hard-sided, so I don't have a lot of leeway. I have less space than like most people would have. What I did, oh, we found his purple mouse. Come on, Miki. We've been looking for this purple mouse the whole time packing, because we know it's like one of his favorite toys. So what I did, knowing that he was going to need his favorite toys, is made sure to bring his Slothy, which he has through over the last few days as I've had the luggage out. He's taken Slothy in and taken Slothy out, so that Slothy's coming for sure. And as is Purple Mouse, we were a little worried about that. But what I did, since I'm only allowed to carry on him and then this roller bag, is I'm packing inside of my roller bag where I can easily pull it out, all of his goodies that he's going to need for in the flight. So in the front pouch, I have toys. I also have treats and like Tubies if I feel like he needs that. He kind of goes crazy for those. Inside of the bigger section, I packed away his food container. So this is a pretty cool container. I just got it on Amazon, where you can put the kibble in there, and then the kibble comes out, and you can fill this up with water. So if we do feel like he needs any water or kibble at any time during our travels at the airport, at either of the airports or on the plane, we can utilize that and have that nearby. I brought sanitizing wipes just in case there's a catastrophe. I also brought Ziploc bags to contain the catastrophe. And maybe most importantly, I brought lots of wipes just in case we have to clean up after him. Oh, going back to the bag, I did line it with absorbent liners, and then also one of my husband's dirty, stinky shirts, so that Mikan felt right at home there. So when we get on the plane, I'll grab this out of my roller bag before I put it up top and stash it down next to the Mikan baby. So inside of the bag itself, and I'm sure you guys aren't going to see this, so I'll film it another way. Like I said, I have Slothy, we have Purple Mouse, He is very good at walking on his harness. So we like to have a long lead, a long leash, so that we can give him a little bit more space and he can explore areas. I brought quite a few of the wholehearted tubies. We try to keep them away from having a lot of chicken, just because I've had cats develop allergies before in the past. So I brought the tubies. He loves those. And then as a treat for him, I'm bringing a whole fillet. And really the reason that I got the whole fillet is because I'm a little nervous about going through TSA with the tubies. So I made sure to keep them 100% sealed. So hopefully it doesn't become a problem. I did package up his kibble that he's gonna need. I'm probably bringing way too much. So I did 2 little bags about this size, just in case something happens. And then the number one question that people always have when we tell them we're going to try traveling is like, what is he going to do for going to the bathroom? So for going to the bathroom, I packed up this. It is just 2 separate Ziploc bags inside another Ziploc bag of litter. My plan is when I'm going through TSA with him to actually remove this and just put it on the conveyor belt by itself. I'm TSA pre-check, but I'm planning on just carrying this in a separate bag because I had read that sometimes this can cause your baggage to go into secondary review, and I don't want that to happen, especially traveling by myself, because my husband doesn't have TSA pre-check, so he's going to be like not with me during this time. So litter, which will travel separately with me, is my idea. And I do 2 bags because one, just in case we need it, you know, going up there, and we'll just toss it instead of trying to like reuse it. And then one's kind of the same idea coming home. Inside the hotel, what we've used before in the past, because he's done this quite a bit, is this collapsible litter box, which just goes like this. But what we typically do is we line the collapsible litter box with a foil pan and we just throw the foil pan away once he's been using it for the amount of time that we're there. So that's the plan here. So I'll bring this collapsible litter box. It just helps to control the amount of litter that gets on the floor inside of the hotel. And then this pan goes inside of there. It's not an exact snug fit, but just that 2 inches that exists all around is really helpful in containing the litter inside of the bathroom. And then in here I have his scoop for the scoopable litter, and then little litter bags so that I can tie those up so that the maid's not having to deal with that. The other thing that I learned to bring with me is my own bags, trash bags, just for disposing of the litter when we're completely done with it. So at the hotel, we can fold up the foil pan and put it inside of a trash bag so that the maid, again, is not having to deal with our cat's mess. And then finally, I brought this huge Ziploc just in case we do need to set up a litter box at the airport or at either one of the airports. We're not thinking we're going to need to, but if there's any delays or anything like that, we're going to need to give the little guy an opportunity to go to the bathroom. So if we do have to use one of these pans, I would dump out whatever litter we use and then just put the pan back inside of this huge Ziploc and then pack it back inside of my bag. So that's kind of our packing thoughts for Mikan. So we'll see how it goes. Like this is the plan. We'll see how it goes. He is not going to be sedated in any way. He's going to be traveling as lap luggage for both of us, or on both trips. And we'll just see what the difference is too between Alaska and Southwest. So we're flying Alaska up there, Southwest back. I do have status with both airlines. It doesn't help you when flying with animals. They don't give you any special benefits, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes and if it goes smoothly. But when we get up to Portland, I will let you guys know how it all goes, and that's it. All right, so we are back from Portland with Mikan, and this is the follow-up portion of expectations versus reality. So what I expected versus the reality of the trip that we had. So sorry, Mikan's getting very curious. So overall, I think he did really great. And honestly, one of the things that I think worked the best is just having a cat that has the disposition to be, you know, an adventure cat, a travel cat, which is exactly what attracted me to Mikan to begin with. I saw him on Pet Finder, which I like to call pet Tinder, and he just had swagger and confidence in his profile photo, which is why I went to the rescue to actually look at him. So I think that can't be underestimated. There are some cats that are naturally introverted, and so traveling with those type of cats may be different than traveling with a cat that's curious and confident, which definitely is what Mikan is. So, well, that's number one, right? That's what worked well, is the fact that it was with Mikan, and so we can't underestimate the need for that. Talking about what else worked really well, I'll kind of go through. I have a list. So the first one was traveling at the right time of day. So we may be a little hyper vigilant with our little kitten because he is so young. He's about 16, 17 weeks old, and he weighs about 4.5 pounds. And we are very aware of like when he's doing his business. And so we knew that he does his business first thing in the morning, and that he usually does it again like around 3:30, and then does it some point in the middle of the night, which we're unaware of. So we knew that going up to Portland, that traveling with a flight time leaving around 6 o'clock was going to be ideal, and coming back, we were traveling right in the middle of the day at around 12 noon was the flight time, which meant that we would be home before he had to take his afternoon bathroom break. And of course, that is just talking about number 2, not talking about number 1. So that was the unknown that we had for that. But yeah, so just traveling at the right time of day was huge, and making sure that he did use the restroom before we went to the airport was really great. And honestly, the best way to try to encourage your cat to use the bathroom is to just like scratch around in the litter or clean out the litter, because they love to go right after you've made it a clean, nice place. So that was really helpful. We did it both coming there and back, and it worked like a charm. The next thing that I would say is taking time to really play with him. So we did make sure that he was exhausted before we actually left the house. So playing with him in his normal environment. And then even at the hotel, he's a hotel champ. This isn't his first vacation. It's just his first vacation where he had to get on a plane. And so just making sure that he was really tired, didn't have a big nap right before going to the airport, managing their energy, I think is really key. So we made sure to play with him a lot before we left. One of the things that I don't think I mentioned that I did leading up to the trip also was making sure that I trimmed his nails super short. And I do feel like that was something that worked really well. When I first put him in his carrier, I noticed that his nails were able to claw the mesh just a little bit. So trimming those right before we left, really short, like the night before we left, trimming those really short, I think was super helpful for him too. The last thing that we did that was really useful, and I'm going to have to run and get it, so give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. So one of the things that I did that before we left was make sure that he was really comfortable with his harness and being in a harness. And so the type of harness that we're using is the type that goes around the neck and then also around the torso. This was the only harness that was actually available because he is a little kitten, and so there wasn't any other thing that would fit him. So that's the reason that we had to use this particular type. I did buy a harness from the Mia and Albert called the Houdini, which I'm really eager to try, but I tried it on him before we left, and unfortunately it's still just a little too big, and this is the size small. So even with him being 16 weeks and about 4.5 pounds, it still was their size small was still too small or too large for a kitten. So Mikan is very used to wearing this harness too. He doesn't protest putting it on. We use it whenever we're doing outings, and we do try to take him out of the house a lot. So in general, this is not something that he fights, and it's not something that instills fear. So I think that's worth doing too. Make sure that you have a harness that your cat is used to. And if travel's just a couple of weeks away or a week away, just start now, putting it on them, letting them play in the house, giving them rewards for putting it on and rewards for taking it off, so that they're as cooperative as possible. The other thing that I did do, just, because I always think about worst case scenario, was I put a little air tag on his little harness, and that worked well. So there it is. The Next decision that I did make, though, is that this particular harness only has 2 metal points, and they're pretty small metal points. So I was concerned about the bulk of the leash that came along with the harness, and really every single other harness that we have. I felt like that metal latch was going to be too much to get him through security safely. And when you're going through TSA security, you have to take your cat out of the carrier and hold them as you walk through the metal detector. If you don't feel comfortable doing that, you can elect to go to a separate room and do a separate screening. But obviously, I want to have as little time as possible at the TSA area. So I was opting to try to figure out what would work the best to make sure that we didn't have any secondary issues. And so what I did was I kind of made my own leash because I didn't find anything online that was similar. So this is just paracord, and what I did was create a long length of it and then just tie multiple knots down it, with the idea being that I have a loop end that would go into the loop end of his harness, and you just thread it through like this and then loop the entire thing through, and now you have a really secure, there's just no way that it's going to come off leash that's attached to his harness. So that's what we did before we even got in to go to the airport. We would attach this leash to his harness, and that worked really well. So I will report that one of the things that did work well was the setup, because we had absolutely no issues at all going through security, walking through. I felt secure because I knew that he had his harness. I was able to put the leash around my wrist and hold him and walked right through. The air tag did not set off the alarms at all, and this little bit of metal that was on his leash didn't set off the alarms. And I, of course, am a human and know not to have any metal on myself. So that all worked perfectly. So I would say, as far as the harness goes, try to think about ways to eliminate as much metal from your setup as possible so it's not a TSA concern. And also just make sure your cat's used to it. Do a lot of trial runs, get them used to it, get them used to playing with it and wearing it, so that it's not something that feels foreign to them.
He's like, I'm ready to be in my carrier.
How did it go for you? The next thing that worked really well was the fact that Mikan is really good at being litter box trained already, as far as using a portable litter box. So he's, of course, knows where to go. Here at our house, he's been perfect prince. We've never had any problems at all. But he's also been to about 4 hotels before we did this trip. We also have a really old sailboat that has a portable litter box on it. So he's very familiar with going to the bathroom on litter boxes that aren't his normal litter box. And what we found is that it's not necessarily the volume of litter that is inside of the box, but he needs to have that litter there so that he can kind of claw at it and then use the restroom. So my recommendation would be, try to find opportunities to train your cat on using a portable litter box before the day of travel so that they feel a little bit comfortable. Maybe even swap out your normal litter box with the portable litter box setup that you're planning on traveling with, and see how they do using that, just as a way to encourage some familiarity with it. Now, with that said, Mikan did not need to use the restroom on this trip, but we definitely gave him opportunities to break in San Diego, and also gave him opportunities to break in Portland before getting on the plane, which you feel good about giving your cat the opportunity. And I knew, since Mikan was familiar with going in a portable potty, that when he didn't go, that he just thought meant he didn't need to go. So that was good. Something that is worth talking about is where to set up the portable litter box when it comes time to try to allow your cat the opportunity to go to the bathroom. So I had watched online and really saw 2 options. One would be to use a family restroom to see if that would work. And then the other one was just to find a quiet corner of the airport. And we did try both of those. So going up there, we found a quiet corner of the airport. When we landed, we found a quiet area of the airport. And then when we were coming from Portland to San Diego, we decided to try the family restroom option. And I will say that hands down, just finding a quiet corner of the airport is going to be the much better way. Now, does this follow all airport rules? I don't know. I am a rule follower, as I mentioned before, but I didn't feel uncomfortable letting my cat on a leash go to and try to use their own restroom in a corner of the airport that people otherwise were not there. So that was definitely my recommendation. It was quiet enough that he felt like he had time to explore a little bit and come back and visit the litter box. But using the family restroom was stressful because I felt like, one, I didn't belong, probably because I didn't belong, because as much as he's my fur baby, he's not an actual baby. So I did feel like I was taking up space from families. And the second that I heard somebody touch that door knob, I felt really bad for taking up space. So I would recommend the quiet spot is a better way to do it. The pet relief areas are only dog friendly from what I found in both San Diego and in Portland. So I wouldn't recommend that. That's not going to be a cat friendly environment at all. So maybe sometime in the future, airlines or airports will think a little bit more about cats, but the way that I saw it so far, it's not that. So just try to find a quiet place in the airport where you feel comfortable letting your cat out of the carrier, of course on their leash, and you'll be amazed that the cat will be hopefully curious, but definitely more comfortable to use the litter box there because your stress levels will be a little less elevated. One thing that worked great, so this is my travel setup. This is actually my Briggs & Riley, really old roller case, which is amazing. Like I had mentioned before, it's in an international travel carry-on. So this little clamshell part, this half is all my stuff. That's what I brought with me to Portland. Everything else is for Mikan. So everything else that was in here was for Mikan. So what I did, as I showed you guys before, was I had this separate go bag, and this worked really well. Having that separate, able to pull it out before they closed the overhead compartments was perfect. Really, the flight attendants and the gate crew are just looking at what you're carrying on the flight, not necessarily what you have in your seat once you're there. The next thing that I definitely recommend, though, is creating a TSA only carry-on bag. And so this is going to be, like I mentioned, I was carrying the litter only on in this TSA only bag. So this is what it looks like right here. But I would recommend definitely doing this. So this is a little bag that I took, and it was not packed away in my carry-on bag when I went through TSA. Even when I checked Mikan in, I had this hanging on my roller bag and nobody said anything. But what I put in here going up there was just his litter, and that way I made sure that this wasn't going to get stuck in any secondary screening. And going up there, it was pulled. So just this little canvas bag was pulled. The guy quickly looked at it, saw that it was just litter, put it back on. It didn't even go to like a separate area. He just pushed it back on and it was no big deal. So highly recommend having like a separate TSA go bag that you don't have in your roller bag before getting on the plane, but that's you're just separating out things that could trip you up while going through TSA security. So that did really work quite well. The go bag that I had from the seat, going back to that worked terrific too. So this had the treats in it. It had food in it should he have needed that. Also, we had the little baby wipes in it. So I would highly recommend that because the carriers don't have any extended storage area in that. So definitely have a second bag that you're able to pull out right before the overhead cabin compartments are closed, and just you can shove it under the seat. There's plenty of room with the carriers to accommodate this, so I would recommend this. Also had some treats and some toys in there for him too. All right, so that's all of the things that went well, and now we're going to move on to the things that need improvement. All right, so this is where we're going to talk about improvement. So Mikan's actually in here right now because he became very familiar and comfortable with his travel carrier, and this is actually the travel carrier that we used. It's by a brand called Pet Ami, and it was the only one that I could find that met the really strict size constraints from Southwest Airlines. So what I would say is the most important thing that we could do in the future, and that we've already been working on, is getting Mikan used to his carrier. And so we didn't do a good job at that. We have a carrier that we've been using that has like a clear front bubble that he loves because he can see out of it unobstructed. But this carrier was brand new to him. So in hindsight, I should have taken some time, getting him comfortable with this particular type of carrier. Definitely even him seeing through the mesh was something that it seemed like it took a little bit of time for him to get used to. So my recommendations would be put your cat in their harness, strap their harness into the bag, and then take them on some walks outside. Let them get used to what it feels like to be outside, to hear humans, to hear other noises that they don't necessarily hear inside of your house, so that they're more comfortable and more relaxed in their carrier when you're going through the airport. Hi, buddy. The other thing that we did is we stashed some treats inside of the carrier at the bottom, so that when he was in there, there was some reward factor for him. Like I said, we've been working on carrier training him in this bag since getting back just yesterday, but we're going to continue to do that. And that was definitely one of the improvements. We said that he was meowing the entire time we were walking through the airport. And anytime you're doing something that's new, even sensing a little bit that your pet is not happy will increase your stress. So I think that one of the best benefits to decreasing your stress would be just getting your cat used to their carrier. Don't just set it in the house the way a lot of people I've seen on other videos do. And that's what I did too, is set it in the house, get them comfortable playing in it. Actually take them out in the carrier, walk around with them in the carrier. If possible, start a couple weeks away from flight time so that they know that this is good and that they know that this is a safe place also, so that it's not something they're trying to escape to, but it's something that they want to get into. And that's going to be a really big improvement that we're going to focus on for our next trip. The next thing was the litter boxing, and I will say we did not have any success with our litter boxing, meaning Mikan didn't actually use the litter box during our travel. And I think there and back our travel time was about 5.5 hours from doorstep to doorstep. So that gives you an idea about how much time we were traveling in cars and airplanes, at the airport, all those things. But one of the recommendations I would say is we were using those foil pans that I had showed you guys before. So the foil pans, and I still recommend the foil pans, are great for inside of the hotel. They're really easy to pack things inside of in your suitcase, but I don't think that they're an ideal solution for at the airport. So what I have been experimenting with since getting home was opting instead for inside of the carrier bag itself. There's a hard shell that goes to the back, but taking that shell out, because it is removable, I had selfishly put my iPad and my Bose noise canceling headphones in there going up there. I will not do that again in the future. They're not easy to access, not easy to take out. Instead, what I think I will do is replace that backboard with these shirt boxes. So these shirt boxes that will fit inside of this portable cat care, or the portable potty box, as a liner. And I think that this is a much better solution because as soon as you're done using this, you can just throw it away at the airport. Definitely go with like 3 or 4 in the back. There's plenty of room for it. I'll link to this exact carrier and these exact boxes down below in the description. The nice thing too is that I tested it while I was here with litter, and then also because the boxes are printed, they have kind of like a wax layer that they're going to contain some of the liquid, and you have to remember you're not going to leave the liquid there forever. So I'd still use the foil pans for inside of the hotel room because that ensures 0 liquid gets out. But for a quick potty break at an airport, I would definitely recommend these boxes instead. And then also I think that giving the back of the carrier that rigidity, I think, is really essential too. So definitely overpack on the boxes. You know, if you're flying up there and back, maybe pack 3 or 4 boxes just in case you need it. The next one that we're going to get to is going to be litter, and that's definitely another part of the bathroom break experience that I could improve. And so when I went up there, I just had 2 large quart-sized bags of litter, and I'll show you kind of what the packing size looked like. So I had really filled up, and actually I've even used some of this. I'd really filled up the litter going up there. I was basically all the way to the top, and I had brought 2 of those with me. What I would recommend that you do instead is fill, like just halfway fill a quart-sized bag for every single, let me get the center back in, pack a quart-size bag for every single airport leg that you have. So if you have an airport leg going up, an airport leg coming back, do a quart-size bag. That's all that you need. Because again, the cat doesn't need to have like the entire litter box full. They just need enough to trigger that instinct that they have to dig and then to bury. So you just need to cover a little bit, just mound it in the middle. They're going to target that mound very, very efficiently. So a little quart-sized bag, about halfway filled. This is about 16 ounces of litter. I did use the Feather Light litter, which I like because it's light, right? But one of the changes that I would do is at my home, we use the Feather Light clumping litter and a mixture of crystal litter with that. I would actually do that for travel in the future. I don't know why I was steering away from the things that I was doing. But I like the crystal litter and the... Want to make an appearance? I like the crystal litter with the clumping litter because it doesn't stick as much to the scooper and things like that. So the crystal litter is definitely recommended. So make your custom blend. That's what I'll be doing in the future. So for each leg, a little halfway filled quart bag, and then a large one for your hotel room or wherever you're planning on staying is going to be sufficient. So that would be an improvement that we'll do in our next one. The last one that I will say is going back to my TSA bag. So it's still packed this way because I learned my lesson going up there. These wipes, you definitely want to have wipes because you just never know what your cat's going to get into. But the bag or the little container itself is not waterproof. So make sure to pack them in a waterproof bag. Even this waterproof bag is leaking because it's open. But pack them in a waterproof bag and then keep them in your TSA bag that has your litter in it. Because going up there, I had the TSA bag with the litter in it only, and my whole entire roller case was flagged, and the reason it was flagged was because of the wipes. So the food, the churries that I was really worried about, those weren't a problem at all, but these wipes were a problem. So in your TSA bag, have your litter, have your wipes, wrap your wipes in a waterproof packaging so that they don't leak everywhere. Highly recommend that. So those are my tips, or not my tips, but I guess what worked well and the improvements that I would have. Now we're going to go on to the final question for me. This really was an experiment in what I was going to do long term as far as flying goes. So I have status with Southwest, and I also have status with Alaska Airlines. And so it's kind of like, which one is going to have the best pet policy? How is it going to be flying both of these airlines? So on paper, they look really similar. Their carrier dimensions that they list online are exactly the same, but the experience is different. So let's go ahead and talk about the differences. And so the first one that we're going to talk about is cost. So in the category of cost between Alaska Airlines and Southwest, you're going to have to give it to Alaska Airlines. As of July 2025, their carry-on pet fee is $100, whereas Southwest is $135, and I do believe that that's a fee that just went up with some of their major changes. So $35, it's not a ton of money, but to me that's enough money that it's worth kind of considering it. The second one is going to go to Alaska Airlines, is having the edge with it because their pet policy while on board during in-flight is much better. It's much kinder. It's a more human way for an airline to deal with someone who is bringing their pet on board. And that is that Southwest requires that your pet stay under the seat in front of you throughout the entire flight duration. Whereas Alaska Airlines policy is just that the cat or dog needs to stay under the seat in front of you during taxiing, landing, and takeoff. So let me tell you, as a pet owner, nothing is more soothing to me, the human, than to be able to put my cat on my lap during the flight, even in their carrier. It's nice. You can hear them, you can feel them. I could even feel him breathing through his through his carrier, so it made me feel good. And so that is a really strong leg up when it comes to Alaska Airlines, that I would prefer to fly them over Southwest, just for that leniency of having your pet on your lap during flight. Now, I will say Mikan flew on my lap during the entire flight on Southwest. So while it may be their policy, none of their flight attendants enforced it. But of course, I'm a rule follower. I want to follow rules. So if I know that I'm breaking a rule, it increases my stress. So I may have gotten away with it this time, but if I know that I'm going to be breaking a rule in the future, it is going to make me think second about flying them. So definitely Alaska Airlines when it comes to the in-cabin policy. All right, and in the third category, we're going to talk about space. And I went and got my little baby to talk about this one. So space is really important when you're traveling with a little one. And I have to say that Alaska Airlines wins because they have the ability for you to buy premium economy, which gives you more space in your seat. Specifically, it gives you more space going forward. So when we're talking about airline speak, this is called pitch. So the pitch of a standard Alaska Airlines flight or a seat arrangement is going to be about 31 to 32 inches. Whereas you can purchase their premium economy, which gives you between 35 to 36 inches worth of additional space forward of you. This space is really important when you want to check in on how a little guy is doing in his seat in front of you. This space becomes even more important when you're flying on an airline that says you got to keep this little guy under the seat ahead of you. So on Southwest, their pitch is currently just at 31 inches in their regular seating. This excludes, of course, exit row and bulkheads, but when you're flying with a little guy, you're not allowed to sit in the bulkhead or exit rows. So 31 inches, I can tell you, is definitely not enough space for me as a 5'6" girl to bend over and check on how my kitten is doing in his little bitty tiny carrier and underneath the seat ahead of me. So definitely Alaska Airlines wins when it comes to room. Now you do have to purchase the premium economy on Alaska, but let's remember I'm saving $35 on the pet fee. So I'm more than happy to purchase some extra room, which is exactly what I did flying from San Diego to Portland, so that I have a little bit of extra space to manage my pet while I'm on the flight. Now this of course could change, and that's why this category is going to be a tie, because airline industry rumor has it that when when Southwest changes to assigned seating, which is supposed to happen soon, that you are going to get the option to purchase extra leg room. So about 40 seats per airline or aircraft, they're going to make that allows you to purchase additional room, just like Alaska Airlines. It'll allegedly be between 35 to 36 inches of pitch is going to be made in these new extra legroom seats. So if and when that happens, I would definitely call this category as a tie. But again, we don't know how much that's going to cost on Southwest, and their pet carrier fee is still higher. So take that as you will. The next one is going to be in-flight experience for the cat, and this one's going to Southwest. So Southwest wins because Mikan was way happier with Southwest's quiet, efficient in-flight service. So those flight attendants just move up and down those aisles really quickly. They get the drinks out really quickly. Not a lot for the cat to be disturbed about. Whereas with Alaska Airlines, I love their in-flight service, but he really hated the carts. So if we're going strictly from Mikan's comfort, I would say that Alaska Airlines didn't quite hit the mark, and Southwest wins this category for sure. And the final one that is going to go to Southwest Airlines is going to be the carrier flexibility. So on the surface, if you look at the carrier rules, the dimensions of Alaska Airlines and Southwest are almost the same. But if you read, Southwest Airlines actually allows your carrier to be 1.5 inches longer and 3 inches wider if you're electing not to use a Southwest Airlines branded carrier. So you can actually have a bigger carrier on Southwest Airlines. And like I said before, Mikan is
4.5 pounds right now, so he fits fine in this little tiny one. But as he grows up, as he becomes a big cat, a big boy, I don't think he's gonna be. So then Alaska or Southwest Airlines becomes a lot more attractive to me. So looking at this, weighing it out, it seems like it's kind of a tie, because Alaska Airlines definitely wins as far as the fee. They definitely win as far as the in-flight policy of being able to put your cat on your lap. I say it's a tie as far as the space goes, because Southwest Airlines policy could be changing really, really soon. And then of course Southwest wins as far as the no carts, it's just a quieter cabin, and then the carrier flexibility, allowing a slightly larger carrier, is beneficial to me. So that is it. That is my reality versus expectations in flying with a cat, a kitten for the very first time, kind of what I was expecting versus what I learned. So I would actually encourage everybody to travel with your cats, because they deserve to see the world outside too. And also it enriches your life as the human caretaker of that cat, to get to have them with you while you're on vacation.